So I put out the call for Hey Joe questions. And I feel like this is going to be a recurring theme throughout the basketball season. The last 2 days when I put it out there, it's Hey Joe and some variation on when is Kevin Keatts getting fired? NC State basketball coach. And I get the sentiment. They start off the ACC play with a loss to Pitt, and then they follow that up on the road at Miami and blow a lead. What was a 9-point halftime lead where they looked pretty good offensively, and things bogged down, and the rest is history. But what I find strange here is NC State would not be the first team to start conference play 0-2 and still have a decent season or make the NCAA tournament. But I'm smarter than that. I'm not that obtuse. I understand that this is a carryover effect from last season where they were terrible and people got tired of hearing about the Manny Bates injury and how things would be different and everything else. And I also get to that the way NC State loses, it follows a very similar pattern. They lose the same way every single time. And this is going to be a recurring issue for NC State's basketball program, Giglio, the remainder of the season. My fear is by the time we get to I think the next ACC conference game, it'll be next week against Louisville, right? That it's Christmas break. It's a bad opponent. People are on the Wolfpack and Kevin Keatts, and that's going to be an empty building. And that's when things start getting real for an athletic director and a president as to what they want to do with the program.
Yeah, Kevin's got 5 years and about $7 million left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously he was able to extend the deal after the NCAA ruling last year. That was probably the primary reason he was brought back after the 11-21 year last year. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at it this year and you're going, NC State needs to take advantage of its opportunities. And this is a results business. And you know I like Kevin. You have to win, though.
Yeah.
Okay? And good losses and close calls don't count. You got to win. And the way that they played in the first half against Miami is indicative of the type of team they can be, even with some injury issues. You have to close out games like that. And that's where Kevin's been coming up short. The problem in this year in particular, you're going to run out of opportunities. Kansas was the first. That was a really big game.
Mm-hmm.
They played well, fought through the first half. Second half, it was like a 3, 4, 5 point game. They ended up losing by 4. Kansas turns around, loses a couple games, and you're like, Kansas is good. They're not great.
Sure.
So it's a chance to put something in your bank account. You have the Miami game. Miami, top 75 team. You're on the road. That's in another one of those Q1 games. Right now, NC State only has 5 total Q1 games left. Not on that list, Joe, is the home game against Carolina.
Yeah.
Last year, remember, Wake Forest beat Carolina home, didn't get any credit for it. So the NCAA tournament selection process can be a fickle mistress. And Kevin Keatts learned that the hard way in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So his first team went. This is his 6th team. He hasn't been technically since his first team. You and I think, are both in agreement. The pandemic year, the way that they were playing at the end of that year, they would have been in the field.
Yeah, they would have been in.
But that doesn't quench anybody's thirst for where the program could be and where, quite frankly, it should be in year 6.
I thought the time for Kevin Keatts to make changes was last year, not this year. Especially if you had, re-upped your contract or you knew you had the ability to re-up your contract. You might as well use that time that you bought to say, all right, we're going in a different direction. The things are there for Kevin Keatts to be successful at NC State. I've never doubted Kevin Keatts' ability to understand the transfer portal, given where he's come from. He came over from UNCW. Before that, he was at the JUCO level. So these are things that Kevin Keatts, what I like to say is a coach who understands, I got to scramble. Let me put this team together and let's go, right? But through a series of mishaps, some of it out of his control, and some of it in his control, has put him in this situation. I don't bring this up in some sort of way to start saber rattling that, you got to get Kevin Keatts out of there. I bring it up because this is the reality of NC State's basketball season the rest of the way after what I think most people in an 0-2 start and understandably looking at it going, well, more of the same. Why should I care?
And they have a home game tonight at 6:30 against a good team.
Yeah.
And you and I have seen this before.
Yep.
Whether it was Central beating Mark Gottfried, whether it was UNCG beating Kevin Keatts. You could play some of these dangerous games early and lose. They're not going to hurt you necessarily with your NCAA tournament resume, but they hurt you with your fans.
That's where I'm at, and that's what we talked about at the end of last season. Totally understandable why he was coming back. Finances obviously play into this. Also, optics look like, factor into this as well. But there's one thing you cannot overcome, and that is apathy. Straight apathy in a program is going to cost you more down the line than somebody's buyout. And if this continues on this path, PNC Arena is going to be one empty building. And Boo Corrigan, it's results-based business, not just in terms of wins and losses, but butts in seats, revenue. That matters. And the financial hurt that you might find yourself in is going to be more costly than any potential buyout. Plus, what I always find funny about buyouts is that we act as though Kevin Keatts ain't going to get work.
Right. Would never work again.
I was like, Like, it'll offset itself. Now, is he going to get a similar job to NC State right out of the gate? Probably not. But whatever job he gets after that would obviously upset that, unless he decides to go the Butch Davis route, which I don't see happening.
They've changed the language in a lot of contracts because of what Butch did when he left Carolina and went to be the special assistant to the regional manager with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I got nothing but respect for my finesse king, Butch Davis. Okay? Nothing but respect. So, to reiterate, I am absolutely not advocating for any sort of move with Kevin Keatts. But what I am saying is that there are certain realities that NC State is going to face if things do not get turned around. I don't expect him to lose to Furman tonight. Vanderbilt is next, and it's that Louisville game. It's the Louisville game next week.
I mean, you could even with a win over Louisville, as we saw last year when we went through this with Carolina and Wake. Remember, we went through this whole thing of what losses matter, which ones do, which ones don't. Yeah, now, I get it. Louisville's in a different, completely different place.
Louisville, I'm only bringing up Louisville from the perspective of it has nothing to do with NCAA tournament, losses taking you out, and has everything to do with you're done with a fan base.
But right after that, what I'm saying is even if you beat Louisville, you have Clemp on the road, Duke at home, VT on the road, and then Miami back here, Larinaga. I mean, that's...
What do you like to say?
You're staring at it, man.
There's not a lot of hockey left, right?
No, I think I went into this year and I had the conversation with Kevin. The money's on the table this year.
Yeah.
You have to produce this year. And in my opinion, the Kansas game was a must-win game. And when you look at what Kansas has done early in this season, you go, wow, Joe, what are you talking about? Kansas, they're 9-1. They beat Duke. They beat Wisconsin.
They had a chance.
They had to look at it, man.
They had to look at it.
That's the thing.
That
they
stuff
had
matters.
to look at it.